Welcome, welcome again here at the Gothic Heart with a new episode and a new guest today. Today, Emily is joining us, and she is a holistic business coach and mentor, but so much more. She has a very unique way of looking and working with something called dark feminine energy to help us increase our self-awareness, self-acceptance, authenticity. And I've even just been talking to her before this and already learned some really exciting things. So this conversation is going to be really, really cool. So you don't want to miss this one. But I'm going to let Emily introduce herself because she has a lot more than what I just covered here. So Emily, why don't you let us know everything? Hey, it's Amity, welcoming you to the Gothic Heart, where we explore how to fully embrace your Gothic and alternative self in love, life, and everything in between. Whether you're navigating the dating scene, in a relationship, or celebrating your individuality solo, this is your spot for tips, inspiration, and my own journey from a courtroom attorney to a hollow wedding host. So grab your favorite drink and let's dive in.
So, hi, my name's Emily, and from my accent you can hear I'm from the UK. So I began my journey with dark feminine energy. I began when I was introduced to Lilith, the goddess of Lilith. So a lot of the work that I do with myself and my business partner at Visionary Coaching, what we do is it's about bringing in that holistic side and that creative side as well. And we didn't know this when we first met, but what happens is working with the divine feminine, and then you've got working with and supporting creatives. Now, what we didn't know when we met 4 or 5 years ago is that there's a crossover, and that natural crossover is Lilith. Lilith is there as the dark feminine goddess, and how everybody initially goes, oh my god, scary, and it's all kind of dark. It's like,
I got really excited when you bring up Lilith. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, exactly. So let me reframe that. Muggles can sometimes find it scary.
Love that way of putting it.
Right? However, what I have found in my time is that her purpose is to shine a light on the things that are in the dark. And I mean that not in that we suddenly become light and fluffy, but actually, where's our powerful choice? Where is the powerful whenever we're making a decision, whenever we're deciding something, however big or small, if you imagine that you stand at a crossroads and you've got left and you've got right, which is the powerful choice? The choice that opens up your life, the choice that lets you stand in your power. So when I think of that image, the first image I ever saw was about 2012-ish, I want to say. And I was introduced to an episode of Sherlock Holmes in the UK. It's the BBC version of Sherlock. And they had Irene Adler. Now, Irene Adler in this depiction was a dominatrix. That was her job. In the original story, she was an opera singer. In this version, they gothed her up, they gave her all of this flavour, and they brought some power and sensuality to her sexuality. So she was a dominatrix. So she walks in to the first scene. Her whole house has got these beautiful kind of damask-y, gothic-y wallpapers in different colours and different rooms. Yes, exactly. And she walks into the room and she's wearing nothing but a pair of diamond earrings and Louis Vuitton shoes. And she just owns the room, and these guys are like, oh my god, what have I just walked into? But she stands tall, she's not, her shoulders are back, her head is up. And I just went, what am I watching? This is beautiful, what am I watching? So, fast forward about 6 months, and I realised that what I've been watching obsessively, because I had no other input for it, was this kind of archetype of Lilith. So the writer had written Lilith very, very well in different versions, and this was like his peak version of her, the best version of her. And what she's there for is to support you making that powerful choice. So imagine yourself standing there, head up, shoulders back nice and straight and tall, and you walk in and your hips forward and you go, what's my powerful choice in this moment? And Lilith is always guiding you to that powerful choice. Where did you take your power rather than surrender it? Where did you embody it rather than frighten it? Shy away from it. So what happens is that becomes how do we accept ourselves? What's that powerful choice? Now, sometimes that powerful choice for us does not seem like a powerful choice to people around us. They don't like it. Who did you become? What happened to you? Who was this girl that used to dress like this or used to have these opinions? And suddenly there you are standing like, oh, don't know about this. And the other thing that she does is, as what they say about Lilith, is that she comes in at a time when we are ready to stand in our feminine power. When we're ready to go, I'm all in. I'm going to be all that I can be. That's where she kind of meets you. So there's no softness to her. There's no gentleness. There's no fluffiness. There's no, oh, let's do a bit of unconditional love. So my holistic work is not for a tourist. You know, you're all in. Now, what she does is she steps forward and then she guides you through a process of cleaning out everything in your life that is not clean, authentic, and kind of sharp. So although she comes in dark, what she's there to do is not make you dark, but highlight the darkness. Where are you making decisions out of fear? Where are you being less than you can be? And what you find is, as you peel back the layers, you embrace who you really are. So whatever tools you use to get there, whatever holistic tools you use, whether you work with me or whether you work with someone else, if Lilith is calling you, she will be guiding you into that powerful choice. And she can feel quite affronting. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean it's a powerful energy and you know it. You have been met with a powerful energy. And I've known men who run for the hills. They see it coming and they're like, and they just disappear. But actually, do you know what? It's not a good sign or a bad sign. It just is. It's that but you know what? It doesn't half separate the wheat from the chaff. Suddenly you'll stand, are they good enough to handle you? So that was my first experience of her, and I kept working on, okay, where's my fear? Where's the shadow in my life? And I dealt with fears from past lives. I dealt with fears from ancestral patterns, because that was part of my toolkit and the journey that I went on personally. But Lilith was always there. It's like, how can I show you the light? How can I, right? And my business partner wrote a book because she became my client and there's now my best friend and business partner. And she wrote a book and she calls this phase exhumation. Imagine it on your soul journey or your life journey. You're exhuming. So she's like, I wanted to call it like, the unburying. And she was like, no, it's not deep enough. And so all of the what's the word I'm after? All of the imagery that she brings up is about the dead and the dying. And she wrote a poem about it called We Begin through the Dead Things. And it's like this idea that we begin in the dead things and what doesn't suit us anymore, what doesn't fit us anymore, what's this skin or this belief that is not mine anymore. And you start exhuming. She said, it wasn't just digging around a bit. Exhumation is the only thing that. And you go through this place, and Lilith is your companion during this dark time, during this dark phase. You do emerge, and then you reclaim and you look at it and go, do you know what? Yeah, that's still me. I'm not doing that because I'm scared to present myself. Actually, that's still me. And what I found in my own personal journey is I was a kind of, you spoke to me before we started about this idea of accepting your inner goth, as it were, and then later, are you brave enough to present that to the world? And I found that in the reclamation at the end, so you exhume and clean out all of your crap, and then you heal and you just kind of let that sit for a while, and then you look at it all and go, yeah, that's not me anymore. That's not who I am anymore. But this still is. This is who I was when I was 14, 15, but too scared because I couldn't, because school, because parents said, because teachers said, because someone in the playground said.
All those things.
My first boyfriend said, whatever the story. Actually, fuck it, that's still me. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to reclaim that phase or that phrase or that belief or that outfit or that presentation of who I be in the world. And who cares what they think? So one of the pieces for me, for example, is whether or not how I present myself and how I dress. So I've ended up wearing a lot of really, really dark green, kind of slithering green that matches in with my black. My friends like wearing it as a kind of red and a bleeding red. So or that kind of rich purple. So you kind of, you go back and you go, that's who I was at 15. And then I parked it because I was told to, get a proper job, or
Yep.
dress like this for the office, or whatever. And you just go, actually, no. And some of that will fall away. Some of those fears and darkness and heaviness that you've carried, whether it was a depression or whether it was a whatever, they lift and they never return because they were never yours, or they're not who you are authentically. But what you're left with is the powerful version. And she, to me, Lilith is the companion for that. And when you begin a journey with her, that's where we start. So when I take someone on a coaching journey, one of the first things we do within a few days is I'm like, here's a meditation that will take you on a journey with Lilith. Go meditate, go listen to it, because you need to feel her energy around you. You need to live in it. I get them to go and watch the TV show. But the other thing I do is I'm like, talk to me about the fight. And I call her the woman because that was what it was in Sherlock. They called Irene Adler the woman. She was the one of a kind, the one woman who mattered. She stood out, you know. So for me, I'm like, now talk to me about the 5 senses of the woman. What does she wear? What does she smell like? What's her perfume? What's the fabric that she's wearing? What's the sound that you're listening to? And you kind of build the personified version. So my case, for example, I was watching Sherlock, but she was wearing Coco Mademoiselle. For me, that's the smell. So I then went and I got someone who made it for me I had it as a perfume, but she made it as a essential oil. She blended it for me as an aromatherapy oil, like got all the notes and made it up. So I had it as that. My business partner said that for her, that connection point was Cruella from the remake of Cruella de Vil. And so she had that. She was listening to that tune on a loop to help her embody it, you know? So it's like, what are the 5 senses of this woman, so that you can go, do I feel like that's where I'm at? And so, yeah, it's a really, really, she's someone who you don't want to be scared of. And actually, what I found in my experience, both personally and professionally, is the only thing you're really scared of, you think you're scared of Lilith, but you're not. What you're scared of is your own fear that needs to be cleaned up. So clean it out, you know? So when you look at my website now, it's a very light, it's got light kind of beigey colours. But up until about 3 months ago, it had a green damask Gothic look to it. And it was only because I looked at it and I went, that's who I was when I was exhuming. I need to feel into who I am when it's light. So it wouldn't surprise me if it takes a step back in, but I just needed to feel it without the previous influence. So I think she's a really, really important person. And Lilith, as a goddess, she was originally, historically, she was Adam's first wife. Now, this is a really important piece because she's been written out of the Bible, and a lot of the dark stories that are told about her are so that she is not taken seriously. If she is someone we can be frightened of, and there's nothing to be scared of. You know, if she can be demonized, then we have to ignore her. We can devalue her. But actually, what she was Adam's first wife, and she's been written out of the Bible, but once upon a time she's now in Jewish folklore. She's been kind of resigned to Jewish folklore. But what she was unlike Eve, who was born from Adam's rib. Therefore, subservience is set up automatically in the dynamic. She was born out of the same clay, and she wanted equality. And Adam was having none of it. So she was like, well, I'm leaving then. So she left the Garden of Eden and she went off her own adventures. Well, that's not a bad template to teach. And I read a book when I was studying about her, because I was, learning myself. And we were reading about the sacred prostitute and how you bring that sacred sexuality. So you've got that kind of Gothic-y piece where they've got, kind of sex and Gothic, and this is kind of indiscriminately there. But it's about bringing back that sacred sexuality and making it equal, making it even. And so it's a very different presentation. And I even read in a book, it was a book about the psychological aspect of her. This guy had obviously written a big piece about Lilith and how you embrace the divine feminine. And he was saying, imagine if you were in a counselling session or a couples counselling session, and what you were given as a template for what is a successful relationship is this equality piece that Lilith brings that everyone's ignored. Instead of, it should look like the ocean, it should look all kind of rosy and happy and invite people in. What happens if we demanded an equality from both partners that Lilith is bringing to the space? Who would you be if both partners came from a space where they were willing to look at their fears, they were willing to be a power couple, they were willing to own whatever Lilith had to highlight for them? Make a very, very different relationship. So, yeah, I'm sorry I've just talked incessant, without a breath for 5 minutes, but that's who she is to me. That's why I love her. And then that presentation of, what do I love gothically about, where I shop or what I get, that's just feeling your own flavour of it, because you see people that they present kind of soft and other people are like heavy going on it. It's just I think that's just a personal choice, what feels right in the skin. So yeah, that was how I ended up there.
Yeah, oh my God, my mind went so many places during what you were talking, and I saw so many parallels to things I feel like a lot of us already do, just don't label it or look at it that way, right? And so many ways that I think it could be, like you said, super supportive. I mean, I hope our listeners were going through the same thing as me right there, because there was so much. Yes. But first, I mean, the crossroads thing, I've tried to remember everything, but the crossroads thing, like, I think that's where it's almost like people, at least in mindset coaching and thing, are like, you got to step out of your comfort zone. You got to do this. And that's really scary. But if you think about it from the perspective of you've got Lilith there supporting you and helping you on this journey, and that you can do it exactly, that could make it less scary, right? Bring that extra piece in there. And maybe we can get more people taking that stuff that is going to empower them that may seem scary. So I loved that piece and figuring out how like that could incorporate, because every day, well, maybe not every day crossroads, but a lot of the time, decisions that we make.
But there are some that are bigger than others. If like they have a bigger ripple effect when you make the choice. But yeah, in every day, like what's the powerful choice right here? And yeah, to know that you can go and meditate and you can speak with her, or you can maybe journal and invite her into the space and see what comes off the end of your pen, yeah.
You don't have to do it alone. No, you don't have to do it alone. And the other thing that yes. So, I mean, until now, I never would have considered that or thought that or realized that. And now it just seems like such an exciting thing to explore. I mean, especially as an entrepreneur, a solo entrepreneur, there's so much about that is lonely and by yourself and the decisions that you make. So it could be, I feel like that would be a great piece for entrepreneurs in general. The other thing that I really resonated with what you said was how she was written out of the Bible, written out of she's made to look like this scary, demonish person that we should ignore and don't do anything she says. But that is 100% made so to keep us down, to keep us from the equality that we're trying to get and being powerful.
Precisely why we need to listen to her. Precisely why we need to unravel inwards and work with her.
Yes. There's if you can tap into Lilith and you can do the things that you're suggesting or work with someone that knows how to do that, I just feel like you could be so much powerful and be part of a team, not alone.
I once got one of my clients to write me a testimonial. And this was, so we'd been working together on and off for about a year. You don't have to work with me for a year, but what happens is after about 12 weeks, you've got a very different view of yourself. And then after that, you're like, do I keep going with this? And also your exhumation has begun, and it's whether or not you keep going. Will you keep going until she's supported you in all of it? Or not? And what comes out of it was, I said to her, can you do me a testimonial? And she said, yeah, sure. And then promptly didn't do me one. So eventually I went back to her and I was like, what's going on with that? And she said, I don't know what to say. She said, I'm a completely different me. I can't remember who I was when I was depressed and miserable and da 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 da. And I said, well, that is its own testimonial. That is the proof. We've changed your subconscious self-image so much. You've embodied so much of who you truly are and shed everything else. The fact you can't remember who you used to be is its own testimonial. Oh, okay, yeah, I can write that then.
Yes. That speaks to it right there.
Yeah.
Wow. And what this is a side thing just for me, but I'll bring it up anyway. But when you were talking about what does she wear, what is her perfume, what is her this, and in my head, all I'm thinking is I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but I'm a custom fine jeweler, so I make custom fine jewelry, and that's what I do. So in my head, the whole time I was like picturing the jewelry she's wearing, and I'm working on an actual collection instead of I'm going to of course keep doing custom, but having collections that are ready-made that people can buy, and it's going to have an absolute Gothic Victorian elegant flair. And I was just, when I'm seeing what she's wearing right there in my head when you were talking about it and picturing it, I feel like if I connect in with her or do some of these things, like I could come up with some amazing pieces
yes,
for that collection. I mean, and the damask, everything that you're talking about, that's all part of my part of my influence in these, influence in these pieces. So just from a personal side or for my personal business, that made me really excited to see what could happen.
So that right there is exactly how I work with people, is if you invite her into this creative space, because, excuse me, I'm about to cough. Hopefully you can cut that out. So what happens, the other reason that Lilith is amazing is she's amazing for 1,000 reasons. But another really important reason is that she supports creatives. Now, whether or not you think of yourself as a creative person or not is a whole separate conversation. Let's assume, for the purposes of this, everybody has a creative ability about them that they may have suppressed and repressed over time, or it's not creative unless it looks like art, is another story people have. But even people who, what we would consider, the society might consider an artist, there have been documented cases of people like the artist Goya and Dürer and people like that who have said that what's happened to them prior to a really prolific creative period is that they've had what they call dreams of Lilith. And they're known as, in a group, they're known as like the Sons of Lilith. And what happens is the creative melancholy comes upon them. And that's where it's like, do I go crazy and go into my art? Or do I step back and live a kind of diluted creativity, but at least I won't go crazy? You know, that story that we're told about creativity being crazy? And the whole point is that Lilith arrives and says, you don't have to do it like that. I'm your way out the door. And what she does is, as people work with Lilith, they become creative. So these artists, these great artists were explained, it was documented as saying that they had dreams of Lilith, and Lilith would turn up in their dreams, and then they would start to create, and they would have a massively creative period, and their melancholy and their depression would lift because they had found a purpose and a kind of drive and a way to focus that creative energy rather than it becoming destructive. And I watched my friend, who is now my business partner, and she came to me, and she is a creative herself, but she was always a bit hesitant to go all in case there was a cost, you know. And I was like, I don't really know how this works, but something tells me you'll be okay. So I was still studying her at this point. So she was seeing me for coaching, and we're doing nothing. And anyway, fast forward, she's done the journey, she's done the education, she's worked with Lilith, and she came to write from an aligned space, which I've never seen. It's like we get told you have to be kind of in a bad space in order to create. That's the cost of being creative. And she did the opposite. She cleared out all her stuff, and then she what I can only describe as channeled a book in 40 days. She just was like, and out it came, and she couldn't stop. And it was like, as it turned out, all these goddesses wanted their stories told, and it was her journey plus how she'd worked with them. But it started with Lilith because that's the beginning of the journey, and Lilith's like, I got you, and she wrote this whole thing in 40 days from a completely different space. So again, when you're talking about your jewellery, it's like, okay, well, there you go. She's already gone, okay, you brought me into the conversation. Here I am. Let me take you through this process. Let me show you what we can do with your creativity.
Love it. I love it. And yes, that tortured artist, mantra is such a thing out there. But the way you just described her that you just worked with, it seems like she was able to create once all of that was cleared and lifted, and she had the space to do so.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that she didn't keep a journal or she didn't write poetry during that period. But what happened is it wasn't like it was a requirement in order to create. I have to stay like this in order to be a creative. I have to stay poor. I have to stay tortured. Well, not necessarily. But Lilith, again, if we're taught to be frightened of her and her effect on our lives, then we won't get out the bit. We won't flip the narrative. Because actually she's got all the power in there. But what you've got to be able to do to get access to that power, in however you choose to present it afterwards when you reclaim it, you need to be okay about looking at whatever comes up. You need to be able to look at it you need to go into the depths and look it in the face and have a companion alongside it, whether that's your coach and your holistic team that you're working with, or whether it's Lilith or it's a combination, because when you do it with me, we unravel inwards, but you have these companions along the road. But she's there. She's got the strength to take you through that journey.
I think that's the biggest thing I keep coming back to is you have support with her, with whatever, however the journey looks like.
Exactly. She's just,
So what, I mean, the listeners too, but for me personally, you had mentioned meditating, journaling. What other ways are there? And the dreams. What other ways?
Keep an eye out for your dreams. Those are the things that wouldn't necessarily involve you learning anything because they're just available to you. The other ways that I work with her when I'm, or I work with clients with alongside her as we go, is we look at how we can embody her more. We look at how we can bring her more into our decisions and into so we can feel her around, I suppose. Like she becomes like a constant companion. So there's whatever ways work for that. The other way is to start doing something with your creativity, even if it feels faltering, even if it feels, kind of stop. Doesn't matter. Keep trying to do something with that.
Just try
so allow yourself a creative outlet of some kind. The other thing that we then do once we start doing the intimation is we start using things like kinesiology. We start using things like EFT, so tapping, where you're looking at things that will help you reshape your subconscious self-image. So whether that is kinesiology, whether that is EFT or tapping, as it's sometimes known, or whether that's maybe hypnosis. I did quite a bit of hypnosis at one point. So I'm now training as a hypnotherapist. Whether that's that you go and see a homeopath because you're like, what do I need so that I can bring my emotional self and my physical self? Sometimes their health is off whack, so that brings them both into alignment with each other. Whatever different tools you use, I often describe it like that's the it's like, are you speaking French, Italian or Spanish? Whatever tool you decide to use is your choice. It's like who feels right for you. So if you've listened to this and you think, oh, I really like what Emily's described, I'm interested, then fine, come find me. But even if you went, oh, I like what she's talked about, but I want to go and I've got someone local or I've heard of a person over here that does that tool, the journey is more important than you have to do it through hypnosis or you have to do it through EFT or whatever. So on our journeys through what we do with Lilith and our clients is we work with the journaling, we work watching their dreams, we work with EFT, we work with giving them a creative outlet. We also do epigenetic and ancestral work and past life stuff as well. Because the other thing with you were talking about owning your inner goth and outer goth is the piece that has a persecution complex, the witch wound. Can we present ourselves? Are we okay as women or as a minority group or as a little? Are we okay to express that? Are we okay to stand in our power and own it and have people not persecute us, if you like? So we may be looking at persecution with a capital P or a small p, depending on your story. But ultimately, if we're not, it's that makes us go, oh, I could totally wear that hat. No, I don't think I could. I'm just going to put it back on myself. That kind of thing is what will people say? And that's persecution complex. So that often lives in a past life. That's often where we've been, medicine women. So you think about the witch, the witch archetype, but you've actually got the medicine women. There's a reason we're scared to bring that forward and to own that inner witch. So whether you're looking at, something that looks like Morticia Adams, or whether you're looking at like that I'm doing a homeopathy course right now, and some of the people are talking about all that they really want for their practice is that they are like the medicine woman of their town. People come to them and ask for things. So there's kind of your the medicine woman, the witch archetype. So it's all kind of built in. But again, we've been taught to be scared of it, and in previous lives we were killed for it, so we just park it. So again, there's a part of ourselves we're not owning. There's a part of ourselves we're not claiming. So the tools I use, the epigenetic tools, and what I call transforming DNA memories. That's what the tool is. Transforming DNA memories. It uses a talk down and a hypnosis script that goes in. The way it's written, it's got bits in the middle. It sends messages to the subconscious to say, go in and find the bits that are in my ancestral story that are part of this. This isn't my stuff, but I've inherited it from generations ago. And so it unlocks it. And the idea is that you meet with an ancestor and the ancestor tells the story. And over using that, your ancestor tells the story of what are you carrying in your ancestral lines that you don't need. And there's also one that she's written that says, go back and find the part of you that has been with you in every life. So if you're someone who is interested in using those tools or is interested in including that in the way that you go on your inner journey, then you're also not just cleaning out for you, you're cleaning out for the generations that have been and the generations to come.
That, yes, the persecution that you're talking about, I bring that up all the time, and with all the guests, like how do you have boundaries, or how do you work with it when your family doesn't understand, your friends, significant other, etc., who you are is not accepting. And originally, earlier today when you were talking, I was thinking, well, we've got goddesses now to support us through that, to be powerful and to do it anyway, or instead of shrink in anything that they say. But until this moment, and we had someone on with ancestral veneration, and we've talked about timeline therapy and everything, and it never even occurred to me that it could be part of past lives until you just said that right now. But that actually makes so much sense. I mean, I don't know for sure yet, but that makes so much sense. Especially, I'm Jewish, my whole family, Jewish heritage, Jewish culture. Yes, so that. Cool. Woo, light bulbs, so many interesting things.
Exactly. And, the other thing you'll also have there, if you are Jewish, is yes, we've got that persecution inside a couple of generations, of course. But Lilith was Jewish. Lilith was part of the Old Testament story, and she's been written out. So even then, she's popped. So there's a whole. You will also have, if you went to research it with that head on, with that in your mind, you'd be like, you might find a whole side of Lilith I've never seen, and I've never understood, or I've never come across yet, because it's not been my experience of her, or it's not been my way of working. That your ancestral pattern gives you access to.
Yes. Oh, so many possibilities. Yeah. So for people who want to learn more or things like that, I know you've got your podcast and everything. Can they learn a lot by listening there?
They can. There's a few. What happened with that was it was a beginning, and then my business partner and I decided we'd merge together because we were duplicating ourselves. So within the first few episodes of that, there is some information about Lilith, her historical background, what we talked about being on the crossroads, all that sort of stuff. So you can totally do that. The other thing I'd say is have a read around about her. There are books out there around Lilith and what she's about, and embracing the dark feminine and finding out what that looks like. So the more you can find out about who she is and what she's about, obviously you can come and work with us, join up for a coaching package or come and chat to us about how you get to know about Lilith. That's always an option. But the biggest thing I say is invite her into the space, because once you do, she will turn your life upside down, and it's absolutely okay. You just got to hold on for the ride. Because what I will tell you is the back end of it, when it all opens out and you shed it all and whatever, it's absolutely worth it. And she's still your constant companion, but now you are creating something together, or now you are standing in your power and whole in that space. You're not, she doesn't need you. I think she skips her role when you are in who she is as your companion in exhumation and who she is as your companion in reclamation. I think is a very different goddess. You work with a different. That. But I think she's still there. Like myself, for example, I'm beginning to write novels, and I can feel myself going, I'm going to need her again. Like I needed her to help me clean out the fear and the persecution complex, but actually I need her again to take the pen and see what comes of it. So, yeah, I would say it's about inviting her into the space. Once you invite her in, the other place that she will massively try and shine a light is your sexual attitude. So I talked about that right back at the beginning. But this is something you need to be mindful of, is how clean, and basically how clean is your sexual attitude? What's your attitude to equality in that space? Where are you using it as manipulation? Where are you using it as power over instead of equality and power? And that can be either partner. You know, where's that? Where are you not allowing for equality in that space? You know, where do you like it when a woman, if you can manipulate someone and she can just turn a blind eye and I didn't really see it. Yeah, Lilith's going to shine a light on that. You're not going to get away with shining a nice little, I'll just keep it over there in the corner and no one's going to notice.
So she doesn't just stay where you want her to. She's gonna shine. Exactly.
She goes across your whole life. She goes across your whole life and she's like, I'm going to shine a light over here. I'm going to shine a light over here. So you think you brought her in for your business, or you think you brought her in to help you with, you know, some fears. By the time she's done, there won't be a part of your life still standing. On the upside, there won't be a part of your life that is inauthentic.
Talk about real self-awareness.
She will go through it like a dose of souls. So when I heard somebody write about her and she said she was, they can feel affronted. People can feel affronted by her. And I'd say, yeah, you can feel. But what I'd say is keep going. And the biggest thing I've noticed on this journey when I've watched people is keep saying yes. So what happens is and the number of people I've started working with or have known in my life, who are not necessarily clients, they're just people I know, and you watch them and you see them on the edge of saying yes to themselves, because what she's ultimately trying to open up is the best possible life for you, where you stand all in your power and you ripple out to other people as well. But if you say no, she will respect that choice and she'll be gone like a shot. So you keep saying yes. As you stand up, see your whole body just drop, like, oh my God,
yeah, totally did.
Oh my God, what happens if she leaves? It's gonna be awful. Right. So as you stand on that crossroads and she shows you what the yes is, say yes and keep going. Now, it's okay to be on the crossroads and scared. Like, I'm saying yes, but I'm terrified. That's fine. No, I'm not interested. It's a whole other thing. I had a woman that I hired as a copywriter, and I'd said to her I channeled Lilith, and that's how I got my posts written. And people were like, oh my God, who's this sacred prostitute thing that you're writing about? Oh my God, it's amazing. And it brought me some clients came and found us from that. And I said, well, I channeled Lilith, and whatever she had to say, out it came. So I said to the woman who was the copywriter, I said, you're more than welcome to invite her into your space. See if she'll write through your pen. See what happens. Well, she did. And what she was writing was fine. But the woman said, what was really frustrating for her is it wasn't like she could sit down at 2:00 and go, okay, Lilith, let's chat. If she was out on a run or she was out doing something, if Lilith wanted to, I've got something to say. Because the other thing is Lilith's been silenced for how many thousands of years. When someone invites her into your space, she's going to talk. So if she found it annoying, she was like, yeah, but I'm in the middle of, a run. Whereas I would have stopped on the run and made a quick note and then kept going. Mm-hmm. This woman was only interested if it was in the package that she understood. That copywriter didn't last very long before Lilith was like, okay, fine. I'll go find someone who does want to take this work seriously, because it's important that this work comes through. So what I'd say is, if you keep saying yes, whereas once this woman started to say no, however gently, okay, no problem, you said no. Are you saying no because you're scared, or are you saying no because you just, it's a hard no? If it's a soft no, I want to say yes, but I'm terrified because some fears come up, that's fine. Now we need to make you safe, we need to make it okay, and we need to invite you in to make the choice. Maybe we need to make it safe for you to make the choice to say yes before you can say yes. That's not a no. That's I don't know how to go forwards. That's not the same thing, and she understands the difference.
Gotcha.
If you go no, and she's gone, because she only goes where she's valued. So I've had people turn around and give it a hard no. I even had somebody turn around to me and say, maybe in another life. And I'm like, what? But that's non-negotiable now. She listens. So my advice to people who are listening to this is like we talked about the where can you start and the how, Mm-hmm. But the biggest thing is keep saying yes. Because as soon as you give too many no's, we talk about the effect of a compound yes and a compound no. Compound yes will turn up as we go along. And you talked about those big choices on a crossroads or not big choices. They happen about once. If they haven't happened on a rolling basis, they usually come along about every 6 weeks. How about now? Still sure? Still saying yes? Sure? We're just going to shake a bit up. You still sure? So if you look for them, they might happen on quick succession. They might be a bit more spread out. But they will check. She will check back in. You sure? Because we're just about to take another leap. You sure? And you need to keep saying yes, even if you go, no, but I'm scared. But that's okay. But yeah, right. That's fine. Well, the compound, yes, it ripples out and it creates something extraordinary. But so does the compound no. The compound no closes it down just as fast. And suddenly all those roads, you know how I saw it in your body language, your whole demeanor, this is what she does. Your shoulders went back, your head went up. Oh my God, the possibilities of my life. When I invite her into my space, my joy could be amazing. I could stand in my power. I could shed all this, I saw it in your face. And then I was like, but if you say no, she'll walk. And you're like, oh. So what happens is when people get scared, my advice would be keep going. Now, you can ask for all the support you need. You can use all the tools that we've talked about, learning about how to use EFT. And so the way we've built our program is that we have our sessions, but we also have all of this material outside the session available to you because we know that some days you're going to wobble. But that's okay because we've got the tools. You can use your tools. You can go and get extra support. You can go and ask, okay, Lilith, what do I do? But the minute you say no, those roads that opened up, those roads that you saw open up in the last hour, they go, okay, what you can do with them? And then they start to close down because you didn't use them. But the potentiality that's opened is also shut. So my biggest piece of advice to people would be keep saying yes. Because as she presents you with the crossroad, you say yes, you see where it goes. And you be honest about, yes, but I'm scared, as opposed to no thanks. Because that's what a lot of people do when they're scared. They think the only option is no. Yes, if I feel okay, or no is my only other choice. And I would challenge that and say no. I would say another choice is yes, and now I have no idea how I'm going to do it. Or I want to step into this power, but I'm scared. That's okay. She's there to support that process. So
I think that's an invaluable tip because, like you just said, the possibilities are opened up. But if I do nothing, or I don't keep if I don't keep going, then what? It's just a waste. It's a waste when there's so much available out there. So keep going, keep yes, and putting it specifically in those terms is really, really great advice.
So
that's good. I feel like we could be talking forever.
Yes. And sometimes, if I'm not sure, I will be straight with the universe or with Lilith, and I'll be like, I'm not saying no. I just need a bit of time to get my head around this. Or that's fine as well, because you're very clear that it's not a no. Suddenly that keeps those roads open. It gives you the courage, I think, with the companion alongside to go, okay, yeah, I'm committed to this process. I'm committed to what this takes. Now, whatever the strangled route and however many roads and whatever, fine. But yeah, it's a very interesting, because you only get about 2 or 3 no's and then she's gone. It's a compound no, she's gone. And that's a real waste. That's a real shame.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, as you could tell, obviously, by my body language and my words, that have given me so many, first of all, so fascinating and given me so many things to look up, especially I'm a learner, I'm a researcher, I love that kind of thing anyway. So I'm really excited, and I'm sure that our listeners found it very fascinating too. And just to the point, like this is just one of so many things that you incorporate and that you are an expert in. So we just barely scratched the surface, right? So,
sorry, guys, but
I'll link all of your information below, your website, everything, so that people can reach out and have other resources, etc., and then hopefully bring you back on another topic one day.
Well, absolutely. And what I will do is we'll put into the links. One that you asked me about, where can people read about her? Mm-hmm. One of the books I read, and it was a very basic book in the sense that it was like a chapter on her compared to a whole book about her.
Okay.
But I was reading Sophie Bashford's You're a Goddess, and she's got a chapter on 9 different goddesses, right? But what was fascinating was I got given this book and I was like, oh yeah, great, put it away. Went on my journey with Lilith and then came back to it. I saw there's a chapter about her in this. Went and had another, and all the things that we had learned by living it and going, I think this might be a thing Lilith was trying to show us. Turned out it was this list. And, there was the creativity, there was sexuality, there was authenticity, there was power. And we were like, it's all these things that we've just spent 2 years learning about. We didn't, because I didn't read the chapter, I put it in the cupboard. You know, I put it on the bookshelf and left it there. We're like, oh, right, well, at least we were on the right path. At least we know it was the right stuff, because that's what she kept doing. So, you know, you can look at it in small bits, or you can go deep dive into books about her, but wherever she's written about, go and investigate, because you'll find there's a lot of similar stuff. But that, you know, that sexuality piece is really key as well, because what happens is what you build is a very, very honest, authentic, balanced, sacred dynamic. It doesn't mean it's less gothy looking if you know, when you're going out and doing stuff and, you know, it doesn't mean that, you know, you suddenly abandon that at all, not by any stretch. But what happens is there is a sacred trust to the process that she brings to the thing. And she often talks about how I had the experience myself, and then I read about it from somebody else. Lilith, in the clean out of sexual attitudes, and often men can only be activated to work with Lilith through women they have sex with. It's one of those things where women can find her in lots of ways, but men will encounter her through having intimacy with someone who has activated her sacred codes.
I didn't even think about men not being able to talk, you know.
Yeah.
Yes, okay,
so
got it.
Then she will shine a light on all their stuff, and it's up to them what they do. Do they run for the hills, or do they man and go, okay, what are we going to do with this? But what happens as part of that exhumation and purification process is you often go through a state of celibacy. You often go through a dry spell. Now, if you're in a relationship, I don't, you know, it's up to you how you navigate that. But in my case, I was single, and I was celibate for 15 years. Not by choice, not by, I can go, okay, I'm taking about celibacy. It just happened. I just was like, this doesn't fit me anymore. I don't want to have intimacy like that. That's not working for me anymore. I don't know why, but no thanks. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just wait while I work on myself. Anyway, I didn't know at the time that I was walking into a 15-year dry spell, but that's exactly what I did. And I'm not saying that everybody needs to be in it for that long, but what happens is you go, but then I read in this book about Lilith, and this woman had said, you know, she didn't know it when Lilith showed up in her life, but she went and was celibate for 12 years. You know, she was suddenly on. So there's a refining, and what essentially happens is only the people who really, really get it get a pass. So your value, your sense of who you are in the world, and your value goes up, because you're like, well, I'm not going to settle for less. I'm not going to be less than.
That's the empowerment.
She's a big piece there. She's a big piece of that. So that's one of the ways it shows up. So, you know, within a relationship, you might find that you and your partner go on a whole journey of tidying up and cleaning out, and you come to a completely different presentation of your sexuality on the far side. So
that's like a whole nother. We could have a whole nother episode on that alone. Totally. Yeah. Well, yeah. So I mean, I'm just so fascinated. Like, I'm like speechless right now. There's so many things running through my head, but I definitely want to make sure I cover the wrap up. So, Emily, thank you so much for all of this information. I can't wait to share it with our listeners. I'll have all of the stuff down below in the show notes, and then the resources that you talked about, we'll add that too. So you guys can reach out to Emily. If you have questions, look at all of her resources that she has. I mean, your coaching and mentoring program, all the things. And
including the books about Lilith.
Yes. Well, and I mean, I don't even feel like this is goodbye, because I literally feel like we just came up with a whole nother episode right here on the spot. So,
that's absolutely fine.
I'll have to bring you back for sure. And so anything before we sign off?
No, I think I've covered it, because the important things you needed to know were like, keep saying yes. And as you said, we'll put all of the places to go, things to look at, spaces to find either me or Lilith or both in the show notes, even if that means there's a bit of a lengthy description with a whole bunch of links. But at least that way you, as a listener, can feel into it, what feels right, how to bring Lilith into your life in a way that works for you, and how to just go, okay, I fancy going this way on it, or I'm going to investigate this avenue. They'll all be there. The only other thing I'd say is, as a listener, I don't know if you do like SpeakPipe, or people can get in touch and give suggestions for your podcast. But if
absolutely.
But if people want to use that mechanism to go, I was interested in what you spoke about, I'd like to know more about X. Because technically, we've probably covered about 15 different experiences here.
Little bits, yeah.
So if people are like, either A, come back and talk about this, or I'd love to know more about these things, I can happily come back and do that. But at least you, as the host, can go, this is the one people want. This is what people have come back to. So feel free to give that feedback to yourself, and then we can totally come back and do an episode on a specific aspect of Lilith.
Yeah, and take a deeper dive. I love that. I love that. Well, thank you again for being here, and thank you for everybody listening. Please, I know that there's something you heard today that someone you know would like, so please share this with them. Like, subscribe for futures, because like I said, we're going to bring Emily back, and listen to the other episodes. So just follow along and subscribe, and that's how we'll keep this going, and we'll see you on the next one. So thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.